Good morning, Guilfordians. Welcome to the August 2020 last Thursday of the month coffee chat. I'm very happy to see you here. There are faces of Guilfordians that have participated in this program before, and there are those who are new to us. All of you are very welcomed, and I appreciate your interest in joining us this morning. My name is Ara Sergiui. I have the very distinct pleasure and privilege of being now in my 5th year of serving as a member of the staff at Guilford College. And I invite you now to do as our customs at Guilford College call for, to begin every event and occasion of significance with a moment of silence. Okay, thank you very much. So before we get started with the program, some housekeeping items. The chat function is open to all of you as participants. However, I request that you use it only to put forward questions that you might have. We did previously ask for everyone who registered to submit a question, and so we do have some participant questions already on hand. If you have other questions, you're welcome to put them in chat, and if the program allows, we will get to them, and if not, we will record those questions and respond to you later with the item that you have posed as a question. We are leaving everyone on mute in order to make sure that the program quality is in the best interest of everybody. So please do make sure that you are left on mute, and if you have any questions, please put it in the chat feature. You'll also note that the program is being recorded, and that recording will be shared with you in a subsequent email after the event. So at this point, I would like to introduce to you Dr. Carol Moore. Carol joined Guilford as interim president on August 1st. She has more than 40 years of teaching and senior administrative experience at 6 institutions of higher education. Her leadership portfolio features 3 presidencies, most recently at Columbia College in South Carolina. Dr. Carol Moore holds bachelor's and master's degrees from Montclair State University in New Jersey and a PhD in marine biology from Northeastern University in Massachusetts. She has been prominently involved with the American Council on Education, also known as ACE, as a former senior fellow and as previous chair for the Commission on Women in Higher Education. In February of 2020, ACE presented Carol with its Donna Shavlik Award, which honors those who have demonstrated a sustained commitment to advancing women in higher education through leadership, career development, campus climate, and mentoring. So with that, we're very pleased that Dr. Moore is at Guilford College. Carol, welcome. I'm very glad that you are the featured speaker for our coffee chat.
Well, thank you for that gracious introduction, and I'm very pleased to be part of your coffee chat this morning. It would be nice if we were all in the same room having a cup of coffee, but given the circumstances, the Zoom calls work, and it's my honor to be asked to come and assist Guilford on its journey forward.
Thank you very much. Carol, you have now been at Guilford College as interim president for about 5 weeks. Can you share with us what your initial impressions are?
Sure. Well, first of all, you have a spectacular campus, and you can see a little bit of it in the background here. The grounds are spectacular, and buildings well maintained and stately. It's really quite a beautiful campus. I was certainly impressed initially in learning about the numerous professional development activities that the faculty explored over the summer months. It was a very impressive list of sessions. As I walk around and look around the campus, particularly now that the students are back, I see that the campus has a very diverse population, and that makes for enriching the experience here at Guilford. And of course, it was terrific to see the new students coming in and the continuing students entering into campus. It's a little bit strange with everybody wearing a mask. You really can't see their face very well. All you notice is their eye color. I think it's going to be quite interesting when we get to the day that we don't have to wear the masks again, to actually see the full face of people. The other thing that I think is it was important to note is that the people that I've met so far are really committed to Guilford and take pride in working at the institution and working towards the future of the institution. There are challenges, to be sure, but I think those challenges can be overcome and Guilford can thrive into the future. So those are some of my initial thoughts. And as I said, I can't wait to actually see what people look like when we take off our masks.
Thank you very much. So some of you, if not all of you, may have received an email about these beautiful Guilford College masks. And if you are interested in getting one so that you can be a walking billboard for Guilford College, please don't hesitate to send me an email and we'll be sure to make arrangements for you to get your own Guilford College mask. Carol, I have heard you comment about the college's preparedness for what is undoubtedly one of those moments that will go down in history in terms of reopening of a college campus. We're seeing that all over the country, and some institutions have already reverted to being completely online. And here we are almost into the first full week, about first 10 days of the academic year, and Guilford has reopened campus and we have students on campus. Can you comment a little bit for our participants what your observations are about how the Health and Safety Task Force, what kind of job they've done in making sure that we are ready to meet this moment head on?
Yeah, I think that the folks on that Health and Safety Committee have done a superb job at readying the campus and faculty and staff to reopen the campus. We reopened with, I think, everybody got tested. Well over 700 people were tested, including all of the students coming back. As soon as they came back, they were tested. And faculty and staff, of course, were all tested as well. We haven't really seen much activity in regards to people testing positive. I think out of that more than 700, we only had 2 individuals that tested positive, and they were sisters and they were commuters. So it was a little bit easy to isolate them. We've had a few more people along the way, but I think all in all, the campus is very safe and the students returning went very, very smoothly. The first weekend, I was really surprised, I have to tell you, that there were no incidents of gatherings or partying over 7 or 8 people. And to me, if you can have that kind of result, then the campus really did its job in educating students. That I'm sure that most of you will remember back when you were 18 or 20, It's pretty hard to corral young people like that and have them all wearing masks on campus and more or less saying 6 feet from others that they meet on campus. It's just really amazing to me, because in that age, people think they're invincible, and it's pretty hard to get them to take something like this real serious. But the students here have, and I think that's a credit to them, and it's also a credit to the faculty and staff who have worked really hard to set up the protocols to keep everyone safe.
Thank you, Carol. I think it's safe to say that the work that is done by our faculty and staff, both in terms of the task force, but also actually delivering this academic year, and the way our students are handling themselves through this process, these are great testaments to our community really living by the core values of community and integrity and excellence. And so I join you in saying that I'm very proud of our faculty, staff, and students with respect to everything that we're seeing so far in this very historical moment. Carol, we're going to continue with our conversation with asking you what attracted you to Guilford College and to take on this role to serve as our interim president.
Well, there are really two things that were attractive to me. One is your mission statement. I think it's very bold and assertive to put in a mission statement that your fundamental purpose is to transform student lives. Now that's a big task, and I think people are really committed to that. And that's, to me, what higher education is really all about. It's learning, and learning is a verb, and it means that you're going to change as a result of that learning. So that was attractive to me, because I've been in higher education for over 40 years, and I do believe that education should be transformational. And the other thing that was attractive to me was your core values statement. Things that, a couple of the things are that you or have already mentioned, but community, integrity, diversity, those things to me are, they resonate with me. So I felt that this might be a good fit for me if, with that statement. And the other piece of this is, as I mentioned a minute ago, Guilford does have some challenges, like many institutions, and those challenges go beyond the pandemic. And I've faced those kinds of challenges at other institutions, and so I felt that I would be able to contribute to the advancement of the college.
Thank you very much. We are going to delve into that a little bit more in terms of both the challenges and the opportunities, and why you are poised to serve us well in this capacity this year. Before we do that, though, I think that our guests would probably enjoy getting to know you a little bit more at a personal level. So what would you like to share with them about yourself?
Well, yeah, I think you mentioned it, Ara, and people recognize it listening to me. I'm not from the South. I'm from the Northeast or Middle Atlantic states, from New Jersey. And I've moved around quite a bit in my lifetime, initially because my husband was in the military. He was in Naval Air, and we moved quite frequently for the time he was in the military. And then both of us were in higher education, and we moved for positions in various colleges. So, I've lived in Florida and Texas and New York and Vermont and Massachusetts. So I've sort of hopped around a little bit. I have one daughter, and her name is Kimberly. And now we have I have a 7-year-old granddaughter who I adore, and really enjoy her company and doing things, with her. My background is pretty boring in a sense, because I didn't hop around to change careers like so many people have done. I started out as a teacher in 9th grade general science, and I've continued as a teacher and then an administrator and teacher for all of my career. So that higher education is basically, what I know, and all I know about that. I'm fond of dogs, and I have 2. And both of them are rescue dogs, both very different. One more like a golden retriever, and the other similar to a fox terrier. Over the years, I've had some activities that I've been involved with. I, used to ski and scuba dive, and I don't do so much of that anymore. But other than that, I, be happy to respond to any questions that people might have.
Absolutely. We'll get to that in just a little bit here. And yesterday, I'm sure many of you know, was National Dog Day. So I hope that your dogs got a special treat.
No, they get special care all the time.
Okay, that's good. Carol, let's talk a little bit, if it's okay, about your career. And maybe you can tell our guests, what path did you take to your first presidency? How did you arrive at that moment when you were announced president of, I believe it was Linden State College?
Right. Well, I never had a mapped out path. It just sort of happened. I started my career as a teacher, moved into the community college system as a teacher, and kind of went up through the academic ranks as a tenured faculty member. And just happenstance, a friend of mine was named the academic dean at a college where I was, and the division chair for the sciences happened to leave abruptly. And, my friend asked me if I would step into that role for a year. And I said, well, I really don't want to go into administration. I really want to teach and do research. But I did it for him as a favor for what I thought was a year. And lo and behold, people thought I was pretty good at it and wanted me to stay. And that sort of led to the path of moving up in the ranks of administration to assistant dean and academic dean and provost, and then president. But I never thought of the presidency as something that I was striving for. It just came along.
Thank you, Carol, for sharing that background. So, of course, you served for quite some time in that role as your presidency, your first presidency, and then you went on to be the president of 2 other institutions. What lessons did you learn in your role as president of 3 colleges, and what can you tell us about those lessons and experiences that you feel will serve you well in your role as interim president at Guilford College?
Yeah, well, you learn a lot of lessons, and some of them you learn the hard way by making mistakes, and certainly I've made my fair share. I think this is the 8th college that I've been at, and so I think as you go to a different college environment, everybody thinks that their college is unique. It's one of a kind. And in some ways, there is a unique flavor to each institution, but the colleges, and I've been at very diverse colleges, the issues are still the same. And people on campus play a particular role, and you can, as you go from one campus to another, you can say, oh, there's so-and-so and there's so-and-so. They're different people, different names, but they play a role. So I try to remember that people at a given institution feel that their institution is unique, and yet they're facing some of the same issues that other institutions are facing. And I think one of the other things along the way is that, you, as a president, people kind of look at everything you do and say and sort of pick at it. I think you have to be true to yourself, to who you are as an individual, and be authentic in the role, and not be kind of putting on a particular face to that role when you're interacting with people on the campus. I think it's really, to me anyway, it's very important to be, just who I am, and to let those parts of who I am add to what's going on at the campus. And in terms of sort of lessons learned, my background is, biology, marine biology. And when you step into more advanced senior roles, one of the things you have to learn pretty quickly is finance. And I've done a lot of work on the financial side of colleges and have experienced a breadth of challenges as well as, learning how to do things like, how do you refinance debt? Well, I know how to do that. I never thought I would, but I do. And I think you get with experience, and you get to know what questions to ask of different parts of the institution, and to delve into those different component parts of the institution with that knowledge and that ability of experience to know where to find the problems. And what questions to ask to unearth those problems, so you can get things back on track. So this is a very people-oriented business, and so I think one of the things that I always think about is the diversity of people that you come in contact with, and being open to enjoy those differences that people bring to the table, and to not treat everybody the same way. Some people think that it's some sort of equality by treating everyone the same way. I don't happen to be one of those people. I think different people need to be engaged in ways that are comfortable to them. So those are a few.
Thank you very much. Like you, Carol, I have worked at a variety of institutions, from the research one to the flagship to the community college, and Guilford is the first liberal arts institution that I worked. And I can honestly say that the sense of community and the members of the community is one of the most important and unique facets of Guilford College. Today on our call, we have alumni all the way from Greensboro to the West Coast, Portland, Oregon, with us. We have retired and emeriti faculty, founding director of the Friends Center, other staff from the Friends Center, former staff of the Advancement Office, and former CFOs of the college on the coffee chat with us today. And that kind of drives the point home that Guilford is very much strengthened by members of its community. You talked about learning, lessons learned, and some of them through making mistakes. So if it's okay, maybe we can talk about, what is one thing from your past that you're particularly proud of, a success that you had? Maybe you can share that with our guests. And then also maybe if you would like to, if you feel comfortable to, share a mistake that you learned from and what that entailed.
Yeah, well, that old expression, if you don't make mistakes, you're not really doing your job. Well, I guess I do my job because I make a fair amount of mistakes. So, I think there's a lot of, little things in the course of the day, you didn't read that email carefully enough and didn't, or you didn't get around to responding to the email in a timely manner. That's, some of the little things. And, some of the big things are, I'm a very open and direct person. Not everybody is. And sometimes, I can think of occasions where, my philosophy about people is you extend ultimate trust to them until they show you that you really can't trust them. So, I've certainly made a few mistakes in trusting people that really didn't do what they were supposed to do. Let's just leave it at that. And that, that kind of leaves that, it stays with you. I mean, I'm thinking of particular things at the moment that would be inappropriate to share in the fullest measure. But they do, some of those mistakes, stay with you.
Thank you very much. That's such an important point, talking about trust. And, of course, people perceive trust as a two-way street. Mm-hmm. And so I think that our community is looking to us as leadership of the college to exemplify that as we go through what will be a challenging year for all of higher education and certainly for Guilford College. And that takes us to our next question. In your opinion, what are the main challenges facing the college now?
Well, as you're aware, but everybody else may not be, certainly there are significant financial challenges that the college is facing. They're not alone in that issue. Most small private colleges are always kind of looking at the financial side of the house, so to speak, to make sure that they can deliver a high quality education to the students that choose to come there. And Guilford is, no different than most small privates. Finances are always a struggle. This year, with a lot of different circumstances, and not the least of which is the pandemic, Guilford has a significant financial challenge. And I've worked at other institutions who had similar challenges. And I think that's why the trustees offered to me the position here at Guilford, because I had been successful in facing those challenges for other institutions. And, it just one of those things that, that happen to institutions. They start dreaming big and spending big when their pocketbook is a little smaller. So I'm confident we can address those challenges there this year, but there will be some very difficult decisions that will have to be made in order to do so. And I think the other part of that, on a different side of the coin, is Guilford is at a moment in its history where it really has to define itself for the future. We know, for example, that enrollment has been declining, again, very similar to a lot of small private liberal arts colleges. And we have to look to some different populations to engage them in the learning experience. And that will take a little bit of time and collaborative thinking and discussing as to how Guilford carves out its path to the future. And that will be an exciting thing to do. It's always kind of fun to think about where you want to go as an organization and what the possibilities are, and explore those possibilities and choose, because there's always many paths to a bright end. So that will be kind of an interesting and engaging, fun kind of thing to do. Shoring up the financial status of the college will not be quite so much fun.
Thank you very much for that response. And of course, one cannot happen without the other.
Right.
So it's necessary that we engage in that very difficult process. You talked about the demographics, and I think it would be helpful for our audience members to know that research shows that the number of traditional college-age students is going to decline by about 15 to 20% in the next 10 years. And that is directly commensurate to the events of 2008, where people started to have less children. And as a result, we will have less college-age traditional students. So that means that Guilford and many other institutions will have a particular opportunity to expand their programs in terms of being available to a non-traditional college-age student. And non-traditional means particularly students that may come from the underserved communities in terms of higher education, first-generation college students, documented and undocumented students, and also the adult age, where Guilford was a champion, a leader for that, and the first school in North Carolina to start a bachelor's degree program for adults returning to get a college education. So how do you think Guilford's positioning of that will particularly serve us in terms of our core values of justice and equality and diversity?
Well, I think you're absolutely right. The 18 to 22-year-old population is declining rapidly and will continue to do so. So we're going to be starting what I call, excuse me, a futures task force, and we'll be looking at, what are the trends in higher education and outside of higher education, and how can Guilford position itself to shift gears, frankly. It's going to be hard to maintain the college if we continue to rely on simply that particular population. And as Ara pointed out, Guilford has some history in serving adult populations. So I think one of the things that I anticipate coming out of the task force, given those demographics, will be that we will put some more emphasis back into adult education. Those who, may have started college way back when and for whatever reasons dropped out or just didn't finish, now looking to come back and complete a degree. We know that that these days things are shifting in terms of the bachelor's degree being the ticket, if you will, to upward mobility and career mobility. And that's shifting towards now the master's degree. So I think we have, you know, some opportunities there to expand our offerings at the master's level as well. And then there's, you know, there's other populations, and I think this is where your mission or values of social justice come into play. There are many individuals out there who need retraining, but don't need to go through a whole another bachelor's degree or a master's degree. And so some short-term programs like you know, maybe a post-baccalaureate certificate program or an undergraduate certificate program to give some breadth to individuals that are looking to move along in their chosen field of work, but don't necessarily want or need a full degree. And there's, you know, plenty of room for that. There are positions out there that don't require a full degree and but do need some training. So you know, there are opportunities there as well.
Thank you very much. That's a great response. And of course, Guilford does have specific programs that are very unique to us. We have a wonderful cyber network security degree program. We have public health. We have sustainable food systems, and some of our older, longer lasting programs as well that perfectly position us for that kind of opportunity to serve a broader community of students. Carol, at this point, we are ready to transition to questions that have come to us from our participants. So
Sure.
I'm going to start with a question from Emily, who is a Guilford College alumna and benefactor in North Charleston. Emily asks, what drove you to take on this challenge?
Well, I guess plain and simple, I'm not a very good retiree. I've retired 3 times and it never stuck. So, you know, I'm a kind of person that really needs to be busy, and I've had positions that really didn't allow me to develop a lot of hobbies, and I'm not really much of a hobby person. So, you know, I said, I don't like retirement. I want to be doing something that's contributing to some issue or to some end purpose. So when the opportunity presented itself here at Guilford, I felt that I had met a number of the challenges that Guilford is facing at other institutions, and that I could contribute positively to the institution.
Great, thank you very much. We have another question. This one is from Esther, also a Guilford College alumna and benefactor. Esther asks from Raleigh, what are specific ways alumni can support our alma mater?
Good question. Well, I think there's multiple ways that alums can support the college. I mean, obviously through philanthropy, that's, you know, one clear way, but there are other ways as well. Being engaged in the life of the college is, I think, important. I'm not quite sure all that you do in terms of getting the alums engaged with activities and students on campus. But, you know, in my experience, students really like to see alums, to talk to them, to hear about, you know, their journey at the college and their journey in life. And it gives them I think, hope and the kind of spirit of, well, if this person can do it, so can I. So I think all of those ways, out in the community to be speaking well of the institution and to share their good experiences with others in their circle of friends and acquaintances, so that the kind of word on the street, so to speak, is positive about Guilford, and people hear good things that are happening.
Thank you, Carol. You're absolutely correct. And in fact, last year we launched the Alumni Volunteer Engagement Program. And we will be sure, my colleagues who will be sending out the follow-up email to this event, we will be sure to include the link for that so that those of you who are interested can read more about the volunteer program. And if you are so inclined, sign up to become a volunteer. We already have over 250 alumni volunteers who are serving exactly in those roles in terms of working directly with students for career coaching, for mentoring, for speaking to classes along with our faculty, and providing specific resources to our students for internships, fellowships, and certainly philanthropy. So we will include a link for that in the follow-up email. The next question was submitted by Joe. Joe is a Guilford College benefactor and a longtime Guilfordian through her parents and other family members. Joe is in Summerfield and asks, how would you describe your style of leadership? And how do you plan to employ it in working with the various constituencies of the college?
Mm-hmm. Well, my style is, I always like to say it's eclectic. So I'm, as I mentioned before, I'm a pretty open and pretty direct person. I like to collaborate with people. I think the more ideas you get, the more choices that you have, and the better your decision making is going to be. I'm a pretty informal person. My door is actually closed right at this moment, but I was about to say my door is always open, and it is literally as well as figuratively. I enjoy people just knocking on the door and popping in to say hello or to tell me something. Those things I carry with me. I really thrive on interacting with students, and that's been a little bit hard these days, talking through the mask and getting to know the students as well. So, I guess that's sort of the summary. One of the things that I did pick up a long time ago in a book I read is, managing or leading by walking around. And I like to walk around the campus, and I like to walk around and see, what's going on. And I like to look at bulletin boards in buildings to see what they tell me. And believe it or not, I learn a lot from looking at bulletin boards in different areas. So I hope that answers your question.
Thank you. The next question is twofold, and it's twofold because it has a component from Gertrude, who is a former retired staff of the college. Gertrude is in Greensboro. And then the second piece of it is from Diana, who is a Guilford College alumna and benefactor from Raleigh. The question starts with, we should like to hope that you will be taking a look at the decisions that have been made during the past 4 years, and most specifically in the last few months, and reversing some of those decisions as you deem necessary. As community members vested in the future of the college and as donors, we will be more than happy to advise you. So The question from Gertrude is with respect to the matter of the art gallery and the decision about staffing of the art gallery that was made a few months ago. And the question from Diana is with respect to the future of the Friends Center at Guilford College. Both of these are important to the Guilford community, as you have learned by now. How would you like to address those questions from Gertrude and Diana?
Yeah. Well, in terms of past decisions, one of the things that the trustees charged me with was to kind of look at some of those decisions and potentially change them if that was warranted. In terms of the art center, in particular, I think that the decision around the staffing of the art center probably was quick and under the need to make some rapid decisions for the financial improvement of the college. But we are working on a different path than was initially laid out for the art center and for the oversight of the collection. And that plan will, I believe, come to fruition in the next 2 weeks, and people will be able to share the path that we're going to take with maintaining the collection of art that Guilford has. In terms of the Friends Center, Wes is back on campus, or at least on Zoom, and that will remain for the moment as pretty much as it is. So.
Great, thank you for addressing both of those questions. And that allows us now to go to the next question. The next question was submitted by also a Guilford College alumna, Kate in Greensboro, who is a member of a family who is very deeply associated with the college. Kate says, the work required for you as interim president will be difficult and persistent, but there will be many positives as well. What do you expect to really enjoy about Guilford and its very special community?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's Kate's right. It's going to be a tough road this year. But what I always enjoy the most on any campus that I've been on is interacting with the students. These young people, it's a pretty awesome responsibility to lead an institution, knowing that you have a collection of faculty and staff that are working with these students on a very personal level, on a 24/7, and with a mission of transformation of their lives. That says a lot about how we have to work with students. So I look forward to getting to know the students a little bit better and making sure that we are doing everything we possibly can to make the experience that the student has transformational. Students come today with, the rates of anxiety and depression on college campuses is astronomical. So they come with a lot of issues, and it's a time of their life when they're searching for their own identity and how to carve out going forward a life of their own. And that's, to be involved in that is, it's a big responsibility, but it's also just pure delight and joy to be able to see students mature and grow, and you see them on a daily basis, and then almost magically you see them at graduation and they're a different person.
Thank you for that. The next question is also from two different individuals, so I'll pose them in this way. The first part is from Tori, who is also a Guilford alumna. And Tori states, the interim position is an interesting one. In part, your job is to create a buffer between the last administration and the incoming one. How do you think about how to prepare the way for the successful presidency of the next individual in this role? And then in tandem with that, Alfred, who is a former member of the advancement staff and now retired and married to a Guilford College alumna, asks, how do you characterize the measures by which your time will be deemed successful?
Can you repeat that, the last part, all right?
Sure. So Alfred's question is specifically about how will you characterize the measures by which your time will be deemed successful? And that's in tandem with Tori's question about how do you anticipate you'll prepare the way as interim president for the next longer term president?
Mm-hmm. Well, in coming to Guilford, the trustees gave me a charge. And I can't remember all the elements of the charge right at the moment, but the essence of the charge was to address the structural deficit that the college is living with, and to look at the curriculum from the standpoint of the programs that we offer and whether or not they're viable. Could we offer them a different way that would be more effective as well as more cost effective? So those are some elements of the charge. And so, you know, I've got my marching orders, so to speak, and that's what I came to do. And, you know, I feel responsible to achieve that. And the measures of achievement will really be that I'm able to hand over the college to the next president with a balanced budget and some surplus, and to, you know, be able to say that these are the offerings of the college that meet student needs today and their desires today. Because we know as the student population changes and we're you know, we're doing that, we're now seeing the Gen Zers come on campus, and they have, you know, different desires for a career path, and they have, you know, they react in the world differently than the millennials did. So we have to constantly be keeping pace with the students and their needs as the college moves forward. And that means change, and change is hard.
Thank you. One of the things that is particularly unique about our time is that we literally have members of the Guilford College community that range from Gen Z to the veteran generation and everything in between. And so you can imagine that serving the needs and desires of such a diverse group of people, not simply by age, but by the experiences that they have that have informed their values, their priorities, is no easy task. And I think that that's going to be one of the measures by which we can look back and say, how well did we do in terms of meeting everybody's needs, while most importantly, safeguarding the college. We are getting close to the end of our program, and what I'd like to do is to first of all thank you again, Dr. Carol Moore, Interim President of Guilford College, for being our guest today and sharing responses so candidly to the questions that have been posed to you by our guests. Dorothy Gilbert and Alex Stossen have written two of the most impactful books about the history of Guilford College. And in those books, they have talked about when Guilford has faced crises and how the college community rallied to support the institution in the face of those crises, whether it was the Civil War or the flu pandemic or recovering from the world wars that affected our country. both in the 1919 timeframe and then the 1940s timeframe. What we never expected as employees of the college is to find ourselves in the middle of a world-defining crisis, and here we are. And so, as you mentioned earlier, the importance of our alumni being engaged with your time and talent and philanthropy are going to be pivotal to how we can make it through this particular time and recover and ensure that we have 184 more years of Guilford College. Thank you all for your time, for your participation today, and we will be in touch with you with a follow-up email that will include with it a link for the masks, as well as additional information with respect to the next coffee chat and a video recording of today's program. I'm also sharing with you the link for the masks here if you would like to capture it now and get yourself a beautiful Guilford College mask. Thank you all.
Well,
have a wonderful day.
let me add my thanks to everyone for your kind attention and for your participation in this conversation today. And I do hope that before I leave, I get a chance to meet some of you.
Thank you very much. Have a good day, everybody.